this build-up, seemingly so, of people from the southeast saying, this is our time to get a referendum, perhaps, to get more attention on our part of Nigeria. Can you give us a sense of what that's like to be there in Nigeria right now? Is it fringe or is it big?
Well, in Nigeria right now, if I can get it right, what is happening in Nigeria now, there's no difference from what is happening before. And let me say it again, the people are not like I said, these agitations and everything, and I listen to Jaffa when he says every side is crying for marginalization. That is why the continued call for restructuring of the Nigerian state is imminent, that we sit down and discuss as family how we can continue to live and live.
You keep talking about restructuring. Can you hear me? You keep talking about restructuring. We're talking about referendum. You asked about the referendum, and while you get to that, let me make sure that we understand one thing.
But Doctor, really, at this juncture, really, I may subscribe to what Governor Peter Obi was saying, because there is a process for everything. If you are talking about referendum, it has to go through the National Assembly in an orderly manner, in a diplomatic manner.
No,
that's
not correct. That's not correct.
There is nothing like
self-determination.
All right, gentlemen, Dr. Uguchi, you're saying that is not correct. That is not correct because why? Gentlemen, Dr. Uguchi, you're saying that is not correct because why?
Correct. Because referendum is part of a process that derives from self-determination, the right of every nation, every indigenous nation to determine their fate. And so we're starting from a self-determination. And I want to make sure that the Nigerians here and Biafrans understand that by the fact of your asking for your self-determination, it does not wage war against Nigeria. It neither wages war nor peace with Nigeria. It just says self-determination is our right, and we're going to.
Dr. Gucci, let me just share this. Let me just share this with you from the Nigerian administration. They said on the question of referendum. Have a look at their statement here. We believe in one Nigeria. Our strength is in our diversity and size. The majority of our people think so. That was what I was trying to get out of the governor. The majority of our people think so, says the Nigerian administration. Jaffa,
Femi, please let me.
Nobody.
I would agree that majority of Nigerians.
Jaffa, let me hear Jaffa first, and then we go to Uche. Jaffa, let me hear Jaffa first. I heard you, Dr. Gucci.
Please.
Yeah, Jaffa, you go first.
I think, I will agree with Laolo Akonde, the spokesman to the vice president, on this assertion that majority of Nigerians want us to still live together. If really you could see it is the agitation that is
majority of Nigerians.
I heard that comment. Uche, where do you want to take us? Dr. Gucci, just give me a moment. Uche, yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm making reference to Jaffa and a few others.
Yeah.
If Nigerians are one, and just like Vice President Osibajo said, let us put it to referendum. The truth is that nobody is a Nigerian. Everybody is paying allegiance to his own ethnic origin. Why? Because there is nothing that has bound us together. The people who are forcing us to live together are the cabals, like to which Olusegun Obasanjo belongs, and to a lesser extent, Governor Peter Obi. For instance, after killing our people, have been massacred, our people have been killed, the blood of innocent Biafrans have been spilled, and none of them are talking about the wastage of that, the spilling of those blood. People have been maimed, and they are talking about restructuring. Are you going to restructure the lives of thousands or millions of Biafran men?
Femi, let me say something.
The truth is that they are not.
Gentlemen, hold tight for a moment. Let me just share this conversation. Gentlemen, hold tight for a moment. Gentlemen, hold tight for a moment. This is Brian Ejiofor. This is what Brian thinks is the problem that we're talking about right now. Have a listen to Brian.
the argument has been that there is a lack of development in the Southeast. Yes, and I think everybody agrees that there is a lack of development in the Southeast, but everyone also agrees that there has been a lack of development across the entire country. And the reason for that is the large-scale corruption that we've had and irresponsible leaders. It is surprising that people think that secession is the answer to the problem, because you would still have the same leaders and the same people in government. So it does not solve the problem.
Rudolph, this isn't a problem about being separate. It's a problem about Nigeria not really working.
Femi, let me give you examples of things.
Who's going to give me examples? I would like some examples.
Okay. Let me give you examples. Okay, Nigeria is unjust. A good example is, Jeff, I was talking about Kano State. Kano has 44 local government areas. Lagos State, of the same population, that's what they told us, has 20 local government areas. Let me give you another example. This year, the DSS, Department of State Security, they hired new cadets. In Katsina State, the state of the president and the director of DSS, they hired 44 cadets. In the whole of Southeast, the Igbo states, they hired 41 people. So that's not fair. Nigeria has not been fair. There's no question about that. The issue is that some people, especially mostly are not having, they don't want us to have the discussion about the unfairness of the country. When they had the national conference, which Obasanjo had, every president from Obasanjo, they've had national conference, and they refused to bring people like the Biafran activists to come in and be part of that conference.
So let's just slow down a bit for our international viewers. So a national conference is a gathering of people and thought leaders who are looking at the political structure of Nigeria and saying, how can we do better? That's the idea of a national conference.
Exactly. And we had that, more than 4 of them now. And nobody, they didn't want to
and they happen fairly regularly. All right, I hear you, Rudolph. Let me just hear Dr. Gucci for a moment. Dr. Gucci and then Governor. Dr. Gucci, go ahead.
Okay, please, let's try to be factual. If you say majority of Nigerians do not want a referendum, so there's Biafrans that want referendum, probably 95%, and then the rest of Nigeria. So technically, to start with, that's already a disadvantage. You can't compare what the rest of Nigeria wants with what Biafra wants, and you say, okay, majority of Nigerians. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like when the Scotland wanted to do a referendum, it wasn't the whole UK that they had to poll and say, do you want a referendum for Scotland or not? No, it's the Scottish that wanted the referendum, and they were the ones that we were looking at. So it's a little bit, I don't think it's fair to say, okay, well, majority of Nigerians don't want a referendum. Yeah, majority of Nigerians are not Biafrans.
Let me just share this with you. This is from Must Fix Niger, and then I will go to you, Governor. The legacy is a bigger marginalisation of the region. The region suffers total collapse of federal infrastructures. Power should be devolved. That's what We Must Fix Niger says. You say what, Governor?
Yeah, it's Femi. If you look at what everybody's saying here, it boils down to what I said before. Because you have a failed state called Nigeria, because the leaders does not be fair, all of us who are leaders, because I'm part of the leaders, have failed to deliver to the people, is why where we are today. If you take the Civil War, for example, and listen to what Uche said, where we're coming from, 50 years after, we have failed to address the issues of the Civil War.
But I hear what you're saying. Governor, this is important. This is from Nephew. He says, Peter Obi is part of the leadership. By virtue of that, he has failed the people also. You pretty much owned up to that. Where do we go from here? How do we actually fix some of these issues that have been going on for so many decades?
Issue, like I said, the premise is that we need to have
let me hear the fix. Hold on.
Visionary leadership in Nigeria that can bring everybody. All the ethnic nationalities are complaining of marginalization. Some are more like the Southeast will say, but we need to sit down, have a visionary leader who can drive this process and build the country and make the country. We need to love each other, be able to say, oh, listen, this is a country. Come, let's hear what you're talking about. If you have people who are agitating, let's sit down and dialogue with them.
Let me comment, sir.
It's not our business.
Peter.
You can go on and on about this.
Governor, just a word, really. I have something to add in respect to what it's just a rider to what.
Yes, Jafar.
It is really unfair, really, to see that a certain part of the country, or a large ethnic group in the country, is being marginalized. Truly, it is really true that in this administration, the Igbos are not carried along. That is the fact of the matter. It may be the reason that caused the current agitations.
So people at home, just so that, and people watching, just so you can hear this, Uche says it's not just about this administration, it is about other administrations as well. You are saying that the Igbo people have been marginalized, but a lot of people in Nigeria, there are many, many groups in Nigeria who say that they too have also been marginalized. So this is not a political issue with this particular administration. Dr. Oguchi, go ahead.
The structure of Nigeria does not work for anybody, even though people think, okay, it's going to work for us, we're going to try to exploit it. It's a basic structural problem. It's not a leadership problem.
Do you have a plan beyond the fact that we just want to have Biafra as a state again? Do you have a plan that's bigger than that, or is that the plan?
That's part of the plan.
What's the plan?
The bigger plan is that there should be self-determination for every single nation in Nigeria. Once they decide on what they do, then they can go back and say, okay, these are the kinds of relationships that we want to form.
So let me just think this through. If we had self-determination for everybody who wanted in Nigeria, then there would be no more Nigeria. There would be lots of different little states spotted around. Let me just tell you what the current administration was talking about when they were asking about restructuring. They're thinking about restructuring. This is what they said. This administration has so far the best record in the history of Nigeria in supporting the state governments, and the National Assembly is entirely free to propose constitutional amendments. This is part of their constitutional roles. Rudolph,
yes.
This is a major issue. It's not just about the Southeast. This is about Nigeria not really necessarily working as a country.
Yes, for everybody, but mostly people in the South, it's decided that they've had enough of it and they want to take action. And the action they decided to take, most of them are saying that they want Biafra and they want referendum towards Biafra. That's understandable. And eventually what we're doing today and what we're doing in Nigeria in the last few weeks is having a national conference that we refuse to have. Let me tell you, Peter Obi, the former governor, who has been talking as if he's now part of the people, the masses, used to say when he got elected that a society that we abuse today, we take its revenge on our children. That is what is happening now. Is the society that people like the governor abused in the past that is taking that revenge on his children. So
Gentlemen, hold tight for a moment, because I hear all of your voices. I hear quintet, but no one single voice. Just give me a moment. Let me just share this with you, and then we can start again. This is Jeff. He says, I strongly believe that leadership is needed now more than ever before. Ending these pockets of agitation require leadership. Uche, do you feel that what you're doing is bringing to Nigeria a pocket of agitation, or are you thinking that there's something else going on right now?
We are simply going for self-governance. We want self-determination based on equal rights for every indigenous population in Nigeria.
What's the compromise? What's the compromise, Uche? What's the compromise position?
There's no compromise position because millions of our people have been killed. And as we speak, even Olusegun Obasanjo, Governor Peter Obi participated in killing our people. If he did not kill, what happened to the Izu River victims?
Uche, remember this is an international audience, so if you're going to mention it specifically, do you want to just explain what you're talking about?
Because Which I know that is unfair because I wasn't even there. I didn't even know what happened.
All right. So
you cannot use that.
But it was under your administration. What did you do? We understand that
yes,
there was an
I'm going to ask for a timeout just for a moment. Yes, I'm going to ask for a timeout just for a moment because I can also understand why coming to any sense of understanding it is difficult if we're all talking over each other. Uche, international audience, tell me why you mentioned that specific incident. Why is it important in about 30 seconds?
Right. It is very important for us because today they're talking about restructuring, but they're not talking about millions of people that have been killed because they are asking for their own separate existence. We were not armed. The Biafran people are not armed. Even under Muhammad Buhari, hundreds of Biafran people have been killed, Biafran youth, because we're asking for a right for self-determination. We are asking for self-governance.
So I asked for a compromise position. Guests do. Thank you, Jay. I hear why you brought that up. All right, so I'm asking for a compromise position. Uche, thank you.
The compromise position is to conduct referendum for people to say whether they want to belong to Nigeria or not.
That's not a compromise.
Position here.
That's not a compromise. No, that's exactly what you want. That's not a compromise.
It's a democratic process. It is a democratic process.
Right.
It is not about carrying arm or anything. It is a democratic. Sure. The same way you vote in an election is the same way you vote in referendum.
Right.
So that is where we are.
Let me add something to that.
Nigeria is a failed state.
Okay, let me add something to that, please. If you are in a relationship that hurts you, what is your compromise position? If you are in a relationship that constantly hurts you, do you have a compromise position? No, you need to get out of that relationship. It's just that simple. Survival, it's the survival instinct demands that. There are certain things you compromise on, and there are things you have on.
All right, so guess every now and again, I'm just going to call a timeout every now and again so that you can hear us at home because I know it's very frustrating. Everyone's talking over each other. Do bear with me. Okay, this is Femi Fani-Kayode. He is a former minister in a previous administration. He says here, we want peace by restructuring and not violence. Unleashing genocide against the Igbo or anyone else in the north will have grave consequences. A lot of these conversations that you've been hearing right now in our show, they have resulted in threats. There have been threats from the north to the southeast, threats in the southeast to the north. In fact, there was one story here. Let me just share this with you. There was a viral audio message calling for genocide against Igbos in the north. So they were given a timeline. You need to get out by October or else. This is disturbing, gentlemen. This is what really worries me about this conversation, not just about politics and self-determination, marginalization, violence. Rudolph?
Yes, this is the status quo cannot continue. I think it's almost dead. Something has to change. If I were the government, this is what I would do. We have to immediately, because the issue of amending the Constitution has been impossible because it requires 2/3 of everybody in the Senate, 2/3 of everybody in the National House of Assembly in the states. It requires a House of Representatives, 2/3 of them to all agree to one thing. And they've been trying to do that since 1999. They can't amend anything. They can't change anything significant. And you have to totally restructure Nigeria to make it even begin to work. So if I were the government, what I would do immediately is to say, look at all the former conferences, national conferences, the results, the resolutions, and then decide, okay, this is the bill I'm sending to the National Assembly, and we are going to say that we have to get these bills. And I think if the Southern senators, Southern members of the House of Rep, if they team up together with the Middle Belt, they can actually make a change. Because most resistance we find is mainly from the North. And it's about things that cannot continue the way they go now.
All right, let me just revisit Governor Obi. Governor Obi, there was something that's really important that the Nigerian administration sent to us on the stream. This is specifically for us. They said, this is what we're doing. We hear these complaints right now. Let's put up the statements over and you can actually read it. A couple of things I'm just going to pick out. It's also agreed that legitimate issues and concerns identified and expressed by different ethnic groups will be addressed on their merit and appropriately on an ongoing basis. Are these issues being addressed, Governor?
No. Femi,
Governor, if your name is Governor, I would like to hear. Let's have some clarity. Last few minutes of the programme. Yes, let me just hear some clarity. Hold on one moment.
Femi, let me start by commending Acting President Osibanjo for consultation. That is the right way to go. But I also urge him to consult the people that are directly involved, the youth, whether it's IPOB, whether it's the Arewa youth, whether it's, let them also be consulted, not just the elite, not just us, the leaders.
Right.
They need to consult these people. So I encourage him to do that. But Femi, please allow me to make comment on what my brother Uche mentioned.
Sure.
When he mentioned
Governor, we're in the last 1 minute of the program. Make your comment very brief.
When we did that, in issue of Ezu River, when I was governor, I was away in the UK. When I was called on my way to the US, when I was called that something happened in a river that is between us and the Enugu.
All right. Governor Obi, I am so sorry. We are out of time.